He was just supposed to deliver one final package before retirement. A simple drop-off, no questions asked. But when he arrived at the address, nothing existed. No house, no town, just a forgotten field in a memory buried in time. What he uncovered wasn't just a delivery. It was a message from someone long gone, waiting to be heard. And in that moment, his final job became the journey that would change everything. Hit like and comment where you're watching from. Your support brings more. Amazing stories. Now let's begin. The sky was just beginning to glow with the soft orange of early dawn when Frank tightened the straps on his final load. After 36 years behind the wheel, this was it. One last job, one last destination, and then the keys would be hung up for good. His rig, a weathered red Peterbilt he had named Grace, hummed low and steady like it knew this would be their final ride together. The dispatch had come in late the night before. Just a single package light enough to carry with one hand. No sender, no special instructions, just an address scribbled in a handwriting that looked oddly familiar. 123 Willoughby Lane, Sycamore Ridge. Frank furrowed his brow. He had not heard that name in years. Sycamore Ridge was an old town, if it even still existed, somewhere off Route 41, tucked behind hills and forgotten back roads. He had passed it 1,000 times, but never once pulled in. Not after what happened. He slid into the cab, his fingers tracing the small photo tucked above the dashboard. A boy, maybe 12 years old,
laughing beside a fishing pole.
His son Ryan, frozen in time. The engine rumbled to life, and with a deep breath, Frank merged onto the empty highway. The road stretched ahead like it always had, long, quiet, and indifferent. But this time there was a weight in his chest that the open road could not shake. The sun rose slowly behind him, casting golden streaks across the landscape. A country song crackled through the radio, one of those old ballads about roads not taken and words never said. Frank adjusted the volume, letting the nostalgia soak into the silence. For hours, nothing seemed unusual until the GPS started to jitter. The blue dot danced lost in a patch of static. The paved road narrowed, shoulders disappeared, and the trees grew thicker and wilder like they had not been trimmed in years. He passed rusted mailboxes, a shuttered gas station swallowed by ivy, and what looked like the remnants of an old diner. Windows broken, signs faded. Something about it all tugged at his memory, but he pressed on. Finally, the GPS beeped one last time. You have arrived at your destination. Frank stared out the windshield. There was nothing, just an open field, no house, no driveway, no mailbox. He double-checked the clipboard. 123 Willoughby Lane delivered. Franklin James. A cold chill climbed his spine. How could an address simply vanish? He killed the engine and stepped out. The wind was low but sharp. His boots crunched over dry grass as he walked toward the middle of the field, confused. And then he saw it half buried. In the soil was stone. Not a rock, a slab etched faintly. And all it said was, Ryan, a son who waited. Frank froze, his breath caught, and everything he had buried came roaring back. Frank stood frozen in the fading sunlight, staring at the stone slab peeking through the earth. His breath came slow and uneven, the wind tugging softly at the hem of his shirt. The field was silent, save for the ticking of his truck engine cooling behind him. He stepped closer. Kneeling, he brushed away the dirt with calloused fingers. The engraving was simple but unmistakable. Ryan, a son who waited. A name he had not spoken out loud in nearly 2 decades. A memory he had locked away so tightly even his closest friends never knew the whole story. His knees buckled and he sat in the dirt, eyes fixed on the stone. The smell of dry grass mixed with the metallic scent of engine oil clinging to his flannel. Somewhere in the distance, a mourning dove called out, soft, almost like a whisper from the past. He fumbled for the clipboard, flipping it over. Taped to the back was a small envelope. His name was written across it in thick black ink. To Dad. His heart dropped, hands trembling. Frank opened it. Inside was a single key, rusted and old. No note, just the key. And suddenly, like a floodgate breaking, the memories came crashing in. Frank had been on the road when the call came. Ryan, 16, angry and hurt, had run off after their last fight. You care more about the rig than your own son? Ryan had shouted. Frank, bitter and tired, had said something. Unforgivable. He had meant to call him the next day, meant to drive straight home, but jobs kept piling up. Days became weeks. Then came the news. An accident on a rural road near Sycamore Ridge. A boy matching Ryan's description. Frank never went to the site, could not bring himself to face it. Instead, he drowned the guilt in asphalt and diesel. Mile after mile, a father too ashamed to stop, too broken to turn back. And now here he was back where it all ended. But why now? Why this delivery? He stood slowly, glancing. Around the field, something was tugging at him. A feeling he had only felt once before when Ryan was a child and had gone missing for an afternoon. That gut-deep instinct that something was near. He pocketed the key and walked deeper into the field. That's when he saw it. A weathered wooden post sticking out of the ground about 50 feet away. Attached to it, a faded trail sign nearly illegible. Willoughby Trail Cabin 3. His pulse quickened. Without a second thought, Frank turned back to the truck. He opened the trailer. Inside, beneath a shipping blanket, was a small wooden box carved neatly with his initials. He had not noticed it earlier. Lifting it carefully, he stepped back out. The sun was setting now, casting long shadows across the forgotten field, and Frank, heart pounding, began walking toward Cabin 3. Frank's boots crunched through weeds as he followed the faded trail marked by the broken sign. The wooden box under his arm felt heavier with every step, not in weight, but in meaning. The sun had dropped lower, bathing the landscape in deep amber, while shadows of trees stretched long across the path like fingers reaching into the past. He had not spoken a word in hours, not to himself, not even in thought. The wind, the dirt, the memories, they spoke enough. The trail curved gently, and there it was, a small cabin, weather-beaten and worn, like something out of a forgotten dream. One shutter hung crooked. The roof sagged at the edge. The porch steps creaked as he stepped onto them, heart pounding with every groan of old wood. He reached for the doorknob. Locked. Slowly, he pulled the rusted key from his pocket and slid it in. Turned. The door creaked open, revealing a room cloaked in dust and silence. Shafts of light filtered in through slatted windows, catching particles that danced like ghosts in the still air. The air smelled of pine and thyme and something else, something familiar. Frank stepped inside. On a small wooden table near the window sat a photo frame face down. He turned it over. It was a picture of Ryan, maybe age 9, sitting on Frank's shoulders at a 4th of July picnic, his arms raised in triumph. Both of them were laughing. Frank had not seen that photo in 20 years. He swallowed hard, then spotted something else. In the center of the cabin was a chair. Beside it, an old cassette player and a stack of tapes. A note rested on top of them. "Play me." He hesitated. His fingers hovered. Then he pressed play. The tape clicked, static, then a young voice, clear,
Familiar.
"Hey, Dad. If you're hearing this, it means you finally came." Frank sank into the chair. His hands trembled. "I left this here years ago. I figured you'd only show up if it felt like work. I know you. I learned from you." Pause, then softer. "I waited a long time, Dad. Every truck I heard passing the ridge, I thought, maybe that's him." Frank's chest tightened and he gripped the arms of the chair. "But it's okay. I'm not mad. I was hurt, but I was a kid. Didn't understand how hard you worked to take care of us. I just missed you." Silence, then one final line. "This was never about a delivery. It was about bringing you home." The tape clicked off. Frank stared forward, tears quietly sliding down weathered cheeks. For the first time in decades, the silence inside him cracked. He set the wooden box gently on the table. The lid creaked open. Inside, a photo of Ryan on his bike, a crayon drawing of their truck with Dad and me scrolled below, and a folded note. His hands shook as he opened it. "Thanks for always coming back, even if it took 20 years. Frank sat motionless in the cabin as the silence settled again. But it was not empty like before. It was full of echoes of forgiveness of all the years that had gone unspoken. Outside, the breeze rustled the tall grass and the fading sun bled into a violet sky. The trucker who had seen every kind of road in America now found himself on a road that led inward. He stood slowly holding the crayon drawing. "Dad and me," as though it might vanish if he let go. He placed it back in the wooden box, then closed the lid with reverence. His hand lingered on the top. For a moment he just breathed. Not the shallow, distracted kind he had lived with for decades, but a full soul, deep breath, like the kind a man takes after putting down a weight he forgot he was carrying. As he left the cabin, Frank looked back. The wooden structure now felt sacred, not because of its old walls or cracked windows, but because of what it held: a second chance. Back at the field, twilight had deepened. The stars were just beginning to flicker in the sky. He walked slowly to the stone slab. Ryan's. He crouched beside it again, but this time there was no confusion, only understanding. He placed the wooden box gently at the base of the stone. "I should have come sooner," he whispered, his voice low and coarse. "But I'm here now." The words hung in the air. Then he sat beside it, legs stretched out, staring up at the sky. For once, he did not think about fuel stops, traffic patterns, or delivery windows. He just thought of his son, of fishing trips that never happened, of stories he never told, of all the miles that kept them apart and how they somehow led him here. The stars grew brighter and the wind picked up slightly, sweeping across the grass with a hush that felt like an embrace. Eventually, Frank stood again. He brushed the dust from his jeans and looked back toward the truck. The path ahead was unclear, but he no longer felt lost. As he climbed into Grace and turned the key, the engine rumbled back to life, steady and deep. But something had changed. He pulled out slowly, headlights cutting through the darkness. At the edge of the field, he paused, one last glance in the rear-view mirror. The cabin, the stone, the memories, all fading behind him like the final page of a chapter. The road back would not be easy, but it would be honest. And this time, Frank would not miss the turns that mattered. Frank drove slowly through the quiet hills of Sycamore Ridge, the road winding like a ribbon through time. The town had all but disappeared. Only shadows of what once was remained. But for the first time he noticed the beauty in it. The way the trees leaned into each other like old friends. How the wind whispered stories no one had told in decades. He passed the rusted diner again. The one swallowed by ivy. And this time he stopped. There was no one around. Just stillness and the hum of insects. He stepped out, walked to the boarded-up window, and saw his own reflection, staring back through the dusty glass. A man who had spent a lifetime outrunning the one thing he could never drive away from, his guilt. He sighed, then smiled faintly. It had been a long haul, but he had made it home. Back in the cab, Frank pulled out the cassette tape again. He let it roll even through the static. "I know you probably didn't mean the things you said, Dad. I didn't either. I guess I just wanted to be seen, to be heard." Frank gripped the steering wheel, his jaw tight. "I used to sit by that road, waiting for your truck. I knew the sound of it. I even drew it in that picture. The big red rig with Grace on the side. I always hoped you'd pull in, even if just to say hi." Silence again then. "But I get it now. You were trying to keep us alive. I just wanted you to be there. But this little cabin, this field, this was me being there for you one last time." Frank shut off the player and sat in the quiet. He did not cry. Not now. Instead, he felt something new. Peace. As dawn broke over the ridge, he steered the truck back onto the highway. The horizon stretched wide ahead of him, but the weight in his chest had lifted. The air felt easier to breathe. He was not driving toward a destination anymore. He was driving from one, a place where a boy had waited and a father had finally answered. An hour down the road, his radio crackled. "Frank, you still on the road?" It was dispatch. He smiled, recognizing the voice. "Just wrapped up a personal delivery. Strange one, huh? That address never existed in our system, not even in archives." Frank looked out at the open road, his smile bittersweet. Some deliveries are not meant to be tracked. And with that, he set his cruise control, letting the hum of the engine carry him forward. Not toward the next job, but toward whatever life looked like with nothing left to run from. He had made the final delivery and somehow it had delivered.